Hi, everyone. Happy Monday. And again, happy Veganwary for those who celebrate vegetarianism during the month of January. I'm your host, Mallory McCoy, and welcome to this live streamed episode of A Monday Moment with Mal. As always, may this broadcast bring you what you need in the present moment. And may my love is extended to all who need it. I can use a little extra today, and may my light exude positivity and kindness. Ashe, let's seize the moment. My gratitude moments today. I didn't have to look very far to search for what I'm grateful for today. Certainly grateful for warm space to be in. If you're in Kansas City, you know we have been experiencing brutal cold temperatures, and my heart is certainly going out to the unhoused and people who have no choice but to be out in this cold weather. So I'm thankful that I was able to wake up in a warm space. I'm also thankful for the luxury of being at home to decide whether to send my son to school or not. So today seems like every Monday we've been having inclement weather, and this rise we had ice outside, and the schools in the southern tier of our area have canceled school for today. But our district here in the Northland decided to keep school open, and I was able to decide whether I wanted to send my son on the bus or not. And I know that that's a luxury because a lot of families didn't have a choice but to send their kids on buses this morning. And because our district has to get over 22,000 kids to school or something like that, um, they had to, or some of the buses were delayed. And although we have an app to check it, it's still nice and convenient that I was able to say, hey, let's take him to school this morning so that we know that he is riding safe. So I am doubly thankful for the luxury of that. I'm thankful to still be connected to kids through subbing. Oh my goodness. Last Thursday and Friday, I had an absolute blast, and I felt like a movie star because I would walk in the hallway and the kids would just like applaud just spontaneously. And so, and I had to be like, no autographs, no autographs. So, very thankful that I get to still be connected to kids through subbing. Like I said on an earlier post this week, they really are the best of us. And when we as adults allow them to live in their full kid space, they just are lovely humans to be around. And I love kids so much. Um, I said I would never sub, and so, uh, saying things, like never, or using absolute or always, um, I've learned to not do that with, full intention, because if your steps are ordered to do it, you will do it, regardless of what you say. So, I'm just thankful to be able to sub. I'm also thankful to see my choir babies today. I thought I was gonna be able to see them last week, but, during the afternoon, snow came through and it caused the roads to be treacherous, and so we weren't able to have rehearsal. We have a concert on Sunday, February 4th. And it just made me so anxious because I'm like, we still haven't got to the double bar line of one song, but we're going to do it. We're going to get it done. My babies are going to be fantastic. And I will post information about the choir concert. If you're in Kansas City area and you're interested, it's Sunday, February 4th, starts at 3 at the Cathedral of Immaculate Conception downtown. And that's a beautiful space to sing in, so I'm excited that we're going to be in there. I start my 12-week training today. On my vision board, I said that I wanted to do a half marathon. So I signed up for my first half marathon, and I begin the training today. So I'm excited about that. And then how about those Kansas City Chiefs? Chiefs. If you're in Kansas City and you were on the couch last night celebrating like we were last night, it was a fun game to watch, and it was right down to the end. And so, congratulations to the Chiefs organization. This is their Patrick Mahomes' sixth AFC championship game. And I think even Mahomes and Kelsey broke a record last night. They broke a record for the most touchdowns or something like that. Something I was reading this morning. Anyway, congratulations. See, I'm a fan when they're winning. I'm a fair weather fan. I'm not the diehard all the way to the end. They're not about to get my emotions all up in a bundle. So, uh, anyway, how about those Kansas City Chiefs? We'll be excited to see them next week against the Ravens. Okay, to the topic. As you already know, today's show is entitled Embracing Failure, which sounds very oxymoronic, I know. But before we dive into this topic even farther, I think it's important to define what failure is. So I have the dictionary app on my phone because that's the nerd that I am. And I wish that there was an etymology dictionary app. So anybody who has seen an etymology dictionary app, please let me know because I would love to have that on my phone as well. But I don't want to pay for it. So you're like, what? What's etymology? Etymology is the true origin of the word. And so, as we know, words can start off as something and have one meaning, but end up with completely different meanings, or the meaning has shifted. So, this particular instance, the etymology of the word fail is to be unsuccessful in accomplishing a goal, which actually aligns um, with the meaning of it currently. It can function as an adjective, it can function as a verb, and it can function as a noun, simply meaning to fall short or unsuccessful. So we those two align. Um, and actually, failure, if you say to be unsuccessful or to fall short, that doesn't actually sound bad, but that's not the part that's widely accepted, or that's not the definition that's widely accepted. We actually accept the slang version of the word fail or failure. And that sounds a little bit, that sounds worse. An embarrassing or humorous mistake, humiliating situation, embarrassingly incompetent, stupid was one of the words that was defined. I was like, what? Etc. So, if we know that words create worlds, and we know that we have power in our words, if we adopt in our mind and in our subconscious the slang version of failure, then of course we're not going to want to fail. Nobody's going to want to fail because nobody wants to be equated to being stupid. Yet it takes, I've said this stat before because I was like, we have to wrap our minds around it. It takes 28 days to create a new neural brain pathway. And that directly influences our behavior. It requires 10,000 repetitions of doing the behavior right in order for it to etch and sketch on our brain as something that we just do second nature and it comes naturally. So if you fail at it at one of those repetitions, you have to repeat it more in its right way, or you can repeat it in its wrong way. I hate the words right and wrong because every duality has a spectrum. So I'll have to talk about that in a later live. But yeah. So anyway, 10,000 repetitions of doing the behavior desirably right, and to master the new pattern of behavior. So, can you imagine how many times someone has to fail in that 10,000 repetitions? Like, there's failure happening all the time, and it's completely embedded in the idea of mastering a concept. So that brings me to my question: how are those New Year's resolutions coming along? If you're still on track to meet the goals you set for yourself, congratulations to you. Keep going. Keep going. You can do it. I believe in you. But if the struggle is incredibly real, like you are the ultimate driver of the struggle bus, then you should hug yourself tightly, give yourself grace and empathy, and jump back on it. I've done this more times than I can count. As I've transitioned into a space where I'm able to accept failure. Before that, I did not do that. Before that, I would beat myself up. And it really wasn't okay. I'm getting off topic here because I'm the queen of tangents, but it really wasn't me that felt bad about it in some instances because I think I actually have accepted that failure equals uh, learning, but it was other people around me that hadn't accepted that shamed me into feeling that I was failing. We're gonna talk about that because maybe we can't unpack shame in this whole space. I got a friend who's actually she did her dissertation on shame, and so I would like to bring her in and talk to her about that. But how many of us learned that if we made a mistake, we can recover in the best way and give ourselves grace because it's okay to fail and it's a part of learning. That's why I asked about this week on my post, and I made a reel about it. What direct or indirect messages have you received in your life about failing or failure? If you're an 80s baby like myself, in 1984, look at all this fabulousness. You probably learned that failure is not an option for you. I feel like that was like the overall encompassing idea that I received and message I received from the people around me. And if you are part of a Black household, I know you probably heard um, on repeat, it was like a record that you had to work twice as hard to get a or even to be half as successful as your white counterparts. Because I that was on a loop in my household too. So I know that probably sounds familiar to you. So, um, being that I was when I was a kid, I was really literal and highly impressionable. I worked really hard to not fail. Um, and I think the school system that it still exists. It still exists. I ain't even gonna front, I ain't even gonna lie. That whole thing of you can't fail. If in the ABCDF grading scale, it drives me crazy. Anyway, I think the school system doubled down on this idea of failure equals stupid because, as the only Black girl in some of my classes, and as the only Black, there was either I was by myself or there was a couple more people in my classes. Um, I worked to stand out. School was easy for me though. So when I went to school, I loved going to school because I could do that and not have to work as hard, which consequently has transitioned into my adulthood, especially when I started out. I was like, if something is hard, I'm not gonna do it. Or I'm not going to work hard to do it. I'll just do the easier version or um, just not commit as hard as I would if it was something that came easy. So I know that I know through my therapy and stuff like this, that this is just a traumatic response. I am overcoming and I am still recovering as a people pleaser. So that also came into play with my need to not fail and not fail because I failed, but be a failure in other people's eyes, which oof, that's a lot. There's a lot to unpack there. Um, it says, what's crazy is that we often don't feel like we failed until someone brings it to our attention. So coupled with the embarrassment is the shame of someone else's projection of failure on us. That's so wild. It's wild to think about. Um, how someone's idea can impact your trajectory because they feel the certain way. I just watched this video recently. It was this man, he was talking about how he loved writing when he was a kid. And I love writing too. So I'm not just freestyling. I actually write out a whole thing, a whole blurb before I get on live with you so I can keep my thoughts together. And I write for my blog, which I released a blog today. Anyway, he talked about how there was this one teacher that he had wrote a piece, a story, a short story, and he showed it to this one teacher, and she's like, you'll never make it as a writer. And for 13 years, he put that away. And then he got to college, and one of his, I don't know how he had it or why he had it, but one of his college roommates got a hold of this piece, and he's like, whoa, man, what are you doing? This is fantastic. The world needs to hear this. And his roommate actually um, was an angel to him. He took the piece and he entered it into a writing contest. And do you know that man won? And not only did he win, now he's like a best-selling author. His whole life trajectory has changed because someone believed in him. Someone looked at his work and was like, "This is not a fail. This is fantastic." And he allowed his momentum to be slowed down by someone who believed that his work wasn't good. So, long story short, um, please make sure that you actually feel like something is a failure before we just say it's a failure, and then make a quick plan to how to climb up out of that, because we all fail, because that's a part of learning. So um, our souls agree to manifest themselves into this life to serve a purpose for the greater good of the greater consciousness. And we all don't have the same purpose here. We all have individuals' purposes, and in our life, it's up to us to find out what our purpose is. And once we find it, we are supposed to fall into it and use it to ascend the greater good. Um, so I think it's a bit egotistical for people to compare their life journey with someone else's life journey, because we came here, it's us against us. We were born by ourselves. Well, there's multiples, but still, you're born by yourself, and then you die by yourself. Your body's dies by itself. So it's truly you against you the whole entire time you're here. It's not you against anybody else. It's the superiority complex of the ego that makes us think that we're pitted up against somebody else. Whenever I run a race, I am like, it's me against me. I do my PRs, but it's not in comparison to somebody else's personal records. It's why it's called PR. It's my own personal record. So I say all that to say, because we don't have the same purpose, allow yourself to make a mistake as long as you learn from them. So there's the caveat to that. You can keep making mistakes, but you have to go back and find the lesson in that. So there should be no regrets. People say, I regret things. Don't regret anything. Everything has happened the way it was supposed to happen to get you to where you are. So, I mean, I know that's hard to realize, but no regrets. Just live your best life. But here's the caveat to that. Um, you can keep doing the same thing. So if you make a mistake, the idea is that you shift or you modify something so that you you know can have a different result. But some people keep trying to do the same thing over and over again and expect a different result. P.S. That quote is often attributed to Albert Einstein, but um, it is true that Albert Einstein didn't say that. In fact, it's not attributed to anyone. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. That's the one I'm talking about. But it's true. There's no truer words. Don't do the same thing and then expect that the result is going to be different. And this is applicable to everything, not just mistakes, but just living life. Don't try to do the same thing and expect a different result and get mad because you can't. Because I tell kids in my class, every choice has a consequence. And so, like, when we're getting ready to go to instruments, I'll often say, here's what I expect of you. When you get to your instruments, you're going to get in rest X, Wakanda forever. And then you are not going to touch your instrument. Those of you who choose to touch your instrument will choose not to play with us today. And who you going to be mad at? That's always that's my next thing. And then, one kid will say yourself. And I'm like, yeah, that's right. You're going to be mad at yourself because you made the choice. And I've told you what the consequence is. So just putting that ownership of consequence back on yourself is so important because you're making the choices. We're all compliant in our reality. So here's my challenge to you today. First of all, fail forward. John C. Maxwell did say that. Fail forward. So if you keep failing, go forward. And then unlearn and relearn the messages that you've received about failure. So you can look at your life situations as learning lessons. That way it's easier to embrace failure. Um, just so it's nothing that you should regret, but more just soul lessons. These are soul lessons that you're supposed to have. So my audience engagement question, it was kind of twofold because I asked on my social media and no one interjected. That's okay. I don't do the best job of promoting myself, so it's probably my bad and algorithms already. But my question is one that I had to deeply reflect on. So this was the second part of the question because um we don't often, well, some people do. There's some people that choose to live in the past. I am not one of them. I love the present because the present is a gift. I love to be right here, and then I love to look forward, although my forward trajectory outlook is not always far, because I get so busy with loving the present. I'm one of those persons or people. So the question is, what have you perceived as a major failure in your life when it was happening, that really was your glow up? um, and in an effort to be open and an effort to be vulnerable with my audience, um, I will share mine. And it took me a while to think about it, but I was like, yeah, that actually is one of the major, or what I thought at the time was a major failure, but actually ended up being a glow up and a continual glow up because baby, I am still ascending as but the pivot was this particular instance. So I plan on talking about this in a later live, actually 2 weeks from now. But um, 2 weeks into the pandemic, um, we had just we, as in me and the Raymonds, we had just got back from Mexico. So the world shut down while we were in Mexico. And we had just got back from Mexico. We had to be quarantined inside the our house because we had just got finished traveling. But also, it was at the same time that the world was being quarantined. So we were quarantined, the world was being quarantined, and so we were stuck in this house. And 2 weeks into it, my husband asked me for a divorce. And just a little background, I am a child of divorce. And so um, I I never thought that it would ever happen to me, that I would or circumstance would choose for me to be divorced. But here's what I did know. If I'm honest with myself, up at to that point, we hadn't been good for a while. Um, and especially after having a baby, that's nobody talks about being in a relationship after you have a baby. But our relationship struggled recovering after having little Raymond because one of the things that we didn't really talk about was our different parenting styles. Like, because we never thought about it. We just was like, oh, okay, like we're together. Like, that's just what's happening. But we never talked about it. And it was just really rough. I know that having a baby can wreck a relationship and or a romantic relationship between you and your partner. It shouldn't, but it does, because there's another human that you have to take care of, and there's no manual for this human. You have to figure everything out by yourself. Google was my midwife. Google was my doula. And so anyway, I mean, people can speak from experience, but truly, each individual child is each individual child, and there's some things that are over encompassing. Anyway, I digress. I'll talk about kids in a later live. Um, so I couldn't even focus on that. That was just one hit, but I couldn't focus on that because I was then ousted into learning how to teach kids music online. Um, through a virtual environment. And luckily, I had a student teacher who was just phenomenal. Shout out to Emily because and I hated that for her that she didn't get classroom experience, but baby, she can teach online because she was right there with me. I'm also learning how to continue my in-person doctoral student. Okay, y'all, I'm the student that's in the front of the classroom with the pencil, hanging on to the instructor's every word and writing notes. I'm that student. Our program went from being in person one time a week to 100% online, and my professors, even though they were teaching hybrid, had to learn how to convert their the doctoral program to a 100% online virtual program in the middle of the program. It was atrocious. And then on top of that, my dog Apollo was dying of cancer. I didn't know. I thought I think honestly, he probably would have held on even longer had he not been also simultaneously dying of a broken heart because my other dog died like 2 years before, but he was sad the whole entire time. So it was all of these things plus divorce. Um, and I was a complete emotional wreck myself. And if I actually am honest with myself, I was experiencing depression. I didn't know what it was and I couldn't define it at the time, but that was also happening too. I was an emotional wreck. I was scared. No one knew what was happening. And so all of these things, I list that. I'm like, dang, I made it through that. I guess I did. But all those things were the undercurrent of everything else that was going on. Oh, not to mention my 3-year-old, who had just the summer previously been diagnosed with autism, lost access to all of his services because we were at home. And so trying to walk through that, and keep him safe because he was, had sensory issues with no mask on his face. He never wore a mask the whole entire pandemic. So just trying to walk through that, and do the best I can. It was a lot, but let me tell you, on this side of it, I am so incredibly grateful and thankful for that time in my life. That situation would have ended up breaking a lot of people, um, and it almost broke me. But thankful to my mom, my sister, her friend. We worked out online. Started working out online through Google Meet, or yeah, through Google. It was called Google Chat, but through Google Meet. So, and then I got with Katie McCoy and Carrie Shuck, and we were outside working out and stuff like that. So that was important that I kept my physical self, or got my physical self up. Um, it also helped me break through my people pleasing shell and help me start diving into who I was, because I honestly wouldn't have been able to tell you outside of me being a teacher who I was, what I wanted from my own life, and what my non-negotiables were. Um, it was wild that I got to that point without knowing what I wanted, and people outside of me are like, "Oh, you're so strong," and I was strong, but I also know how to put on a show. That's them life path threes. We know how to put on a show, baby. So what you thought you saw was actually just a mask that I wore. So I'm really proud of myself for breaking down those barriers. And before that, I honestly had never allowed myself the space because I'm such a giver. So giving myself physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually to others at the detriment of myself um, was what I was doing. Anyway, I can say in this space that it truly marked the beginning of the greatest glow up for me. I'm still in the process of glowing up though. So even though I came back to my relationship and we didn't get divorced, I still haven't met my full glow up potential. So y'all keep watching the Mallory show because baby, I ain't done yet. And so with that, I will leave you with a quote and I will leave you with an affirmation. So the quote that I found aligns with what I was talking about other people and letting other people tell you what you are and not you tell you what you are. So Whoopi says, we are born with success, or we're born with success. It's only others who point out our failures and what they attribute to us as failures or as failure. So it's other people's idea of failure that is attributed to us failing or to our thoughts about failing, not actually us. And then, hey, let me be great. Why is this not letting me be great? It's not letting me go to the next slide. Can I just push up? Oh, there it is. Hey. Okay, so our affirmations for today. These were just too good, so I had to choose multiple. Every day is a new opportunity to start fresh. We get every day to start fresh. I am strong and I can overcome anything. My past does not define me. I am learning from my mistakes and growing stronger because of them. And so, with that, that's all for me this week. If you're in Kansas City, I think it's above uh, the freezing mark right now. But whatever you do today, be safe, be joyful, be happy, be loving, choose kindness, choose love, and make sure to tune in next week. It's a show called I've entitled "Gaslighting Your Gut." Oh my goodness, that's gonna be heavy. Anyway, until then, love and peace to all of you. Have the best